Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420, WBSM presents Spooky South Coast with your hosts Tim Weisberg and Matt Costa.
Good evening and welcome to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz. I'm battling a little bit of a cold here, but that shouldn't stop us from having a great night of paranormal talk with our guest tonight, Michael Ellegion. He'll be joining us in just a couple of minutes. He's a UFO abductee, and his new book is called Prepare for the Landings, and we're going to talk about that with him, as well as some of the work that he does in both the UFO and the channeling fields. So that's going to be a very intriguing discussion, I'm sure. Also, we have a guest here in the studio with us. We are broadcasting live on WBSM and also on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com. And if you check out Spooky TV, you can see we have Claire the Haunted Doll sitting in with us tonight. She's sitting right there on the counter. So we want everybody at the bottom of your screen, the left-hand side of your screens, we want everybody to keep an eye on her during the course of the night. And if you happen to see anything happen, let us know, because she is known to move. So we are going to have her in the wide shot, and then we'll occasionally cut to the Claire cam as well, so you can check that out. You know, she's got the headphones on so she can hear what's going on in the show in case there's any calls for her. That way, she'll be able to respond accordingly. So I'll share with you maybe a little bit later. I'll share some of the stories about Claire, but they will be coming out in the new book that Chris Balzano and I are writing together, Haunted Objects, Ghosts on Your Shelf. So, tentative title. I know Chris is going to want me to say that because he's still not happy with it, but we will, we'll share the Claire stories with you at some point. But for now, just do us a favor and keep an eye on her. There are some questions in the chat room if she talks. No, she doesn't, that we know of, but that doesn't mean she might not tonight. But it is just a porcelain doll, and the head is securely fastened to the body. So, but the stories do have the head turning. So if anybody sees that, please let us know in the chat room right away. So I know that's... it's asking a lot. Bring you into the studio, put the lights on, put the cameras on you, and say, perform, doll. But, we've got some plans coming up. Moniz and I are going to run some tests, as they say. We're going to provoke the spirit of Claire. We're going to take Claire to a very famous haunted location and see what kind of results we can get. So don't worry, Jill. We're keeping her in good hands. You don't have to be concerned. Moniz has already made friends. So... All right, well, let's get right into the discussion then with our guest tonight, Michael Ellegion. You can go to his websites, vortexnetworknews.com, prepareforthelandings.com, and channelforthemasters.com. They're linked up on SpookySouthCoast.com. But Michael is a UFO researcher and contactee. He's lectured for over 3 decades on UFOs and ET contact, as well as many other related paranormal and conspiracy-related topics. And he is joining us tonight to talk about his book, Prepare for the Landings. Are you ready? And I've been ready, Michael. I've always said that I've been ready. Should I maybe not be so ready?
Well, actually, the book really helps prepare humanity. I do want to clarify something. You initially introduced me as an abductee, and then you clarified it and said it was a contactee, because there is quite a difference between those two terms and realities. Mm-hmm. I'm a contactee. In other words, I've never been abducted. I have been not forced against my will. I had contact with beings, human-appearing beings, who intervened and saved my life, actually, more than once. Because as I've been exposing government cover-ups, the cabal, or as I refer to the power elite, tried to off me quite a few times, but I'm still here because I have a good cosmic backup team off the planet, which I refer to as the Federation of Light, Galactic Federation, who have been intervening actually behind the scenes for the entire planet for quite some time.
Well, I was reading through some of the biographical information about you on your websites, and it does mention that you feel that you have conscious memories from birth of being on a ship.
Yes, and I share that in the book, and that's something, yes, from the time I was born. I actually remember prior to this life choosing my Earth parents because of their metaphysical and holistic background, which was very important for me to do the work I was ultimately going to be doing, to be a channel. I was actually trained in the Edgar Cayce method of channeling. Many of your audience may be familiar with Edgar Cayce. He's quite a famous channel, psychic from the 1930s and 40s, and became ultimately known as the Sleeping Prophet. And my Earth Father, who had studied his life, discovered that it was actually, he had gone to a hypnotist who trained him to go into this trance state, and he learned to induce that in himself and became the famous Sleeping Prophet. So after I had begun to have visitations from higher beings of light, earth-ascended masters, as well as higher cosmic beings, I started going into altered states and talking in my sleep, and my father, having studied those kinds of things, recognized the signs that I could be trained, as Edgar Casey was trained, into a channel. That's what I started doing by 15. I was doing these professional trance channelings, but I always knew I was supposed to be a cosmic telephone line, that is to channel higher beings rather than just spirit entities. And that's what happened in 1979 when I was taken aboard the second time aboard what I call the Merkava Federation light ship. I actually intervened in my life and activated my DNA RNA to do these kinds of 90-minute transformational sessions they do for other light workers and star people.
Well, you say that you knew that you had a calling to channel higher beings. I mean, but was part of the process of developing this channeling ability working with some of those, I don't want to say lower beings, but not as enlightened beings, or you were contacting these higher powers?
Well, initially at 15 up until 1979, the channelings were more karmic in nature, about past Earth lives, people who come to me by word of mouth. And my parents, of course, even though I was never really normal in a normal sense, they attempted to allow me to be as normal as possible, even though I always was drawn to and was aware of other levels of reality. And but those early expressions kind of prepared me for the more important work. I mean, I was glad I could help a lot of people because I didn't know anything until after I played the recordings back. But I didn't feel that connection until after 1979, and I experienced being taken aboard the second time, that I started connecting with others like myself. That is, others that I feel are volunteers in Earth embodiment who've come from more advanced worlds of the Federation to uplift this planet. In fact, yesterday on 11/11/11, that many people may be familiar with, and I was meditating and tuning into the planetary frequency shift, and there were millions of other souls around the planet doing the same thing, because this is one of the most important, what we call, by us meditating and focusing on this, and raise the frequency of the planet quite considerably from what I picked up, and it's going to start accelerating between now and the end of 2012.
And so when you're receiving these messages, when you're realizing this stuff, I mean, you mentioned that you go back and listen to the recording. Is that how it works? Is that you set yourself up in a quiet spot, you start some sort of recording device so that you can have record of what comes through?
Well, no. The difference is I'm in an altered state. I'm actually conscious doing these kind of sessions, even though when I come out way, speak through me as a direct voice channel. I mean, all the time I'm kind of telepathically open, and they often download to me or comment to me about things going on in the media, the news. Okay. A good example was, over 2 months ago when I heard about what appeared initially recorded as earthquakes in Virginia or Washington, D.C., and near the Denver airport. I immediately was told by my contact Ashtar that the underground negative, deep underground military bases, also the acronym for DUM, were taken out with a sonic type of weapon system. They transported all the operatives out of there, but they ended basically in the last 2 months. They've been basically ending the cabal's reign of thinking the power elite thought they would have these places to flee to because of certain disasters going on the outer surface, and it turned out, of course, there's no place for them to run now. That was a major defeat for the New World Order crowd, as they refer to them. And now, because of that, because they also took out certain mind control devices the cabal has been using against humanity by subjugating us and projecting fear and all kinds of things, suddenly this also impacted the Occupy movement around the planet. People began to wake up faster, began to really become more involved in certain issues, and coming out of kind of a trance state of confusion. I think people have really shifted and become more aware of some of the major things, and this is what's also affecting the Occupy movement with overshadowing of higher forces.
Well, you talk about this cabal and you talk about the New World Order. Let's take a step back and kind of explain to everybody what you've learned is going on. I mean, I know it's hard to put it in a nutshell, but let's try and do that. Well,
from the time I was born, I was basically told by my space contacts early on to be very discerning, and they began to connect me with information to verify things they were telepathically telling me about the power elite, and also basic levels of power as far as how the military is very compartmentalized. They told me all about things. And then later, as years passed, I began to meet what would now, later on in Project Camelot on the Internet, but I met these guys long before that was on the Internet, were 200 to 300 of these ex-military, military intelligence is kind of an oxymoron term, but people that were in black op covert agencies who began to blow the whistle, would come up to my events in the 80s and share information with me, breaking national security, feeling that it was important to get information out. And I heard very similar stories from various different people who didn't know one another, who would show up because they felt they had to get things off their chest. And then years later, now more recently, for a number of years on the Internet, Project Camelot has been a source for whistleblowers to come out and more officially share their stories. But I had a chance to meet a lot of these people earlier on that verified things that MySpace contacts were telling me. An example, when I was 9 years old, watching President Kennedy's news conference on the Cuban Missile Crisis on TV, all of a sudden, as I'm watching the being Ashtar, who I've been in communication with, he pops what I call etherically into the room. Now, you wouldn't see him with your visible eyes, but he was as real to me, looked more real, in fact, than some of the mundane people I saw walking around Earth. His first words to me were, "We're not going to allow nuclear war because it's against Federation policy." Now, he was speaking to me telepathically, but it was clear in my mind as somebody verbally speaking to me. And he also told me how they were coming down over military bases to shut down all the nuclear missiles. And, of course, now, years later, all these retired guys from the military are discussing how they watched UFOs come down and shut down their missiles and how they intervened to stop nuclear situations that could have gotten out of hand, people in NORAD and places like that.
Well, and that's a case, or one of the cases that we've talked about here many times is the Bentwaters case, and that's a clear case of a site where these missiles were located being targeted by UFOs.
Well, they were.
Yes, that was a different type of beings than the ones I've interacted with. They were more like the gray entities that have been often known in abduction scenarios. My contacts have been all human appearing, very beautiful. I mean, they could have walked the streets of Earth dressed in Earth clothes and you wouldn't know they were, quote, an ET or higher dimensional being. But they are what I call our cosmic extended family, and they've been intervening in numerous incidents since the false flag of 9/11, which was a big wake-up call. That was why it was allowed. But there's been many dozens and dozens of situations since then where the cabal planned to, for example, ignite nuclear weapons and blame it on a group of terrorists. They've intervened, and now they're clamping down on the HARP device system that was built originally in Alaska, and also a thing called chemtrails, where they've been neutralizing and helping to clean all the petrochemical poisons out of the atmosphere. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes that most people are not even aware of to help this planet and make it a smoother transition.
How long have they been assisting mankind? I mean, does it go beyond just what we're doing to ourselves now? Or are they maybe some of these, the ancient aliens that we're hearing about a lot in the media now, a lot of these stories that we hear about them coming and helping mankind along through some of their greatest changes?
Oh, yeah, the human-appearing beings, or the beings specifically I call the Elohim, that in the original Hebrew text, it was plural, not singular. As far as God, I believe strongly in a universal force, a divine intelligence, but beings with godlike qualities called Elohim, the gods and goddesses, and later known in biblical times as the angels, often came down and intervened, and intervened in numerous situations. We also had some negative entities, some renegades that I call the Draconians, who eventually infiltrated and shut down 10 of our original 12 strands to attempt to enslave us and manipulate us. Now, they are a small group, but they still created havoc on this planet, and so the Federation had to intervene numerous times. The Draconians also connect with a group of the negative reptilians and these entities called the Greys. We're very much connected with the original banking families that became the Illuminati and to manipulate us. So I've been exposing a lot of this for years, and again, the cabal tried to off me quite a few times, and all I can say is having a good backup team has been very important. As I share in my book, though, my first experience at 6 years of age was falling off a pier in Oceanside, California. A very traumatic experience, but I had written that into my life script, that I was going to have these experiences not only as a verification to the memories I had carried with me, but also as a verification on a personal level that what I was experiencing in a personal sense of intervention would set the stage. And this is what they told me on board the craft in 1959 at 6 years of age on board, that this was a preparation for mass planetary divine intervention in the future that would occur on a mass level, and everyone would have a chance to have interaction, and because of the cabal controlling everything, This was a chance for people to have, a chance to break out of the old controls and limitations that the Power League had placed on us.
Well, you mentioned a few times already that they have made some attempts on your life. What kind of attempts on your life were those?
Well, there was both psychic means. In fact, as I share in the book in '79, specifically, I got hit with what I would call a psychotronic beam. Now, those of you who've seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, George Clooney played one of the agents, and actually they kind of downplayed the actual ability of some of these guys I have met. As time went on, I met some former black ops who were trained in psychic assassination and remote viewing, told me they were trained to kill people, but they didn't want to do it. They were actually, most of the guys I met were all of them, in fact, said when they were ordered to kill, they didn't want to do it. And it's my perception that some of these guys were actually higher beings in Earth embodiment who had infiltrated the cabal to eventually expose things. Well, for me, that horrific experience in March 25th of '79, I got hit with this beam, and I knew I was dying. I mean, they had ripped the life force out of my body. I'm briefly explaining it. I woke up later on the craft, the light ship, and these 4 Elohim human-appearing beings standing around me, putting the life force back into me. They literally brought me back to life, altered my DNA RNA so I wouldn't be vulnerable to that kind of attack. And it was very interesting because I never had fear of death anyway. It was more like if something happened to me, I just thought I'd go back to the higher worlds and go back to the home worlds that I knew of. But I knew I had a mission here. So at that point, as written in my life script, this intervention was to, again, verify to me that this personal thing was a preparation for the future. But as I came out of this experience stronger, actually, my DNA RNA altered so I wouldn't be vulnerable, I was also told aboard the ship, a being named Coraton, who I met in the Federation, he's a communications specialist. And he told me specifically from now on, unlike the old karmic sessions that I used to do, that from now on they would be sessions for those others like myself. And he specifically told me about a list of characteristics that I was going to come upon shortly. It would be kind of a physiological reference point from a DNA RNA point of view for others like myself who have come here. Well, 2 months later, I saw that list for the first time that Brad Steiger had compiled called the NASA Star People Characteristics. If you go to my website, channelforthemasters.com, I invite the audience to do that. It'll be interesting to see how many of those characteristics or traits that you will recognize because, according to the theory, depending on how much energy we've been able to retain on a human level, is how many of those characteristics we end up having. And it varies with different volunteers, but I find that people are drawn to me, drawn to this kind of reality, happen to have at least several to a third. Some have less, some have more. That is one of the reference points that people kind of realize, hey, I'm part of this reality too. And for a lot of people, it's a real comforting, wonderful thing to realize that they're not strange or odd, that actually they're very much a part of the reality. And so it's a very wonderful thing that when people start awakening and start realizing why they're here, their purpose in life, these are the things I bring through, the masters bring through in these transformational channeled readings to give people clarity about their mission. And so it's quite, and not only the information, but they actually have an energy beam on me in which they're downloading what is called these higher light encodements. So when people play back these recordings, and I get the feedback all the time, people play it back dozens of times and say they hear more each time because there's actually layers of stuff in these encodements. And depending how much we each rise to the occasion, they say that these encodements are very powerful to activate DNA, RNA, and kind of accelerate our progress that would have taken a lot longer.
But, without this acceleration, this would have been a natural process for people anyway?
Yeah, people are waking up. It's just this is a way to speed up the process and help you kind of plug in yourself into the cosmic circuit because we're all channeling life force. It's starting to interpret the signal. So the session also helps people get more plugged in, more consciously aware, and in turn, the things that they keep emphasizing is that what each person experiences on a personal level impacts collectively the rest of the planet. It's more concentrated for that person receiving the information and energy, but it does help the overall collective shift.
Now, I don't mean to keep belaboring the point here about, the forces working against you. Obviously, we want to talk about what the message is that you're spreading. But we had a past guest on, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, who mentioned, too, that not only was there this sinister organization trying to take her out, but they were actually implanting people into her life to work against her. Is that something that you had to encounter? Were there people that you were interacting with on a daily basis that were there to thwart you?
No, I had a little bit different situation. I'm familiar with Laura Eisenhower and also Andrew Bichardo, who I've interviewed on my show, The Cosmic Connection. He was on the Coast to Coast show just the other night. It was interesting because of more of his memories being unveiled. And Laura was, of course, in 2006 recruited. They wanted to take her to the secret Mars base, part of Alternative 3, but she turned them down. Now, Andrew, when he was a kid, and it's very fascinating because now information's come out that our President Obama was actually at the Mars training, secret facility that was trained. He was on Mars in '81 with Andrew Bouchargo and this other guy. They were the other guy that was with Andrew. Observe. What was the word I'm looking for? Jesus. Sorry. They compared. That's it. They compared notes and discovered this memory that's starting to surface that they both have memory being the same places. This guy Bill Sterling, I think was his last name. It was a very fascinating interview. But Laura had mentioned, now she didn't know personally herself like Andrew did, but she was, as a great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, she realized her mission is to help expose all of this, and I think she definitely had help from the higher forces to continue on doing what she's doing. But I didn't have that kind of direct interference. It was more psychic in nature. They kind of stayed away from me. I think they knew I had connections, but they still thought they would try to off me if they could. You know, the cabal is very much in cognitive dissonance. They don't want to recognize. On one hand, they know these forces exist, but they always think they can somehow outsmart them. Well, now, the end of August, and their bases started being taken out. This is now the end of it's like their goose is cooked now. And I think from here on out, things are going to get rapidly better and better because of their main resources are now being eliminated. And so the people will now have a chance to wake up. And I think this is what my book talks about, is we're getting ready for open divine intervention. And this, in fact, had to happen. The bases being taken out was one of 3 confirmations that on an intergalactic level, I remember millions of years ago, certain events, 3 events were going to happen, that had to happen within months at the earliest, or no later than a few years, before the actual event, as I described in my book, would occur. And those 3 events all happened in the last 8 to 9 months.
Well, the obvious question that I have to ask is, going back to what you said a few minutes ago, if Obama was on Mars in '81, do you think it's possible that that's where he left his birth certificate?
Well, that's another topic. I know there's a lot of currency for. That's very possible that whatever. I've heard all kinds of theories about that situation. What I'm focused on is the information that has come to light now, based on Andrew Bouchard, who I really feel is definitely right on, is Laura Eisenhower, and the other guy that Andrew Bouchargo met in the training near the Siskiyous, Mountain Shasta, back in the early '80s. And that had happened because it was earlier work in time travel, Project Pegasus, connected with Project Montauk. And I interviewed him, I said, a couple times, and it's just fascinating because of some information I received telepathically correlated with some of the technology and stuff that he was directly involved in. And when he said his memory started surfacing and realized that Obama had a different name he was going by at that time, that I think the first name was Barry, and I think the last name started with an S, was kind of the name he was using at that time. It's interesting that, at that time, there were things specifically said that this person would be one of the future presidents. And just a lot of, this can go off on another topic, but there's a lot of things that are happening now that, to me, are very relevant as far as what is ultimately going to occur as far as disclosure. I think in 2012, I don't know for sure, but the evidence seems to indicate that at some point before the end of 2012, we may likely have official disclosure if things keep going the way they're going.
I mean, hold on a second, because, our mutual friend Steve Bassett, he's been working at that for a long time, and he's been saying, every year it seems like it's right around the corner, and we only had just recently, the petition that Steve was leading actually went to the White House, and the White House actually made comment and said that there was nothing to disclose. So, I mean, it sounds to me like they're calling it case closed. I mean, I don't believe them, but I'm just saying they're calling it case closed.
Well, that's their still official quote thing that they've been. That's their kind of has been their policy for a while, based on the Robertson report and some other things. But behind the scenes, and even based on the works of David Wilcox, who I highly respect, his interview with Benjamin Fulford recently, and other channels and contactees, including what I'm being told, is even though that's what they said, because there's still some control factor there, behind the scenes, there's a whole change going on, not only in the financial world of a new economic system that's now officially in place, but they're just waiting to announce it. waiting for a few more countries to come online. There's a lot of things happening that if you listen to corporate-controlled media and what they put out publicly, there's quite a difference between the actual reality that has been going on for years. And so even though they might have said that, and it was kind of disappointing for a lot of people who thought once they got enough signatures that they were going to do it, I just think they're still trying to and drag their feet. But I think with all of the evidence, and there's numerous whistleblowers who are saying that in some of the compartmentalized levels of the government, because of a recent shift, there's always been two basic governments, those who want to share the truth and the ones who want to cover it up. The evidence shows now with this new economic system that Benjamin Fulford was sharing that it's only a matter of time now when the truth will be revealed. And so I don't, even though they said that again, I think we are on the verge, despite the outer corporate appearances of things, on the verge of things literally being revealed in a more official capacity because of some of the recent developments that have happened.
Well, I mean, I think that the way things are going right now for the Obama administration, and I mean, obviously it helps that the Republicans are kind of in disarray too, trying to come up with somebody to compete against him, but this would be a good time for him to get behind a disclosure effort because he needs something that shows the people that, he is working for something here.
I think really strongly, my attitude has always been, I've never been too much into politics because I always had the attitude that in order to get in, you have to be basically a puppet. But that having been said, my feeling about, and some of these black ops that I've talked to, who really were volunteers in Earth Embodiment, who were on, as Archangel Michael likes to say, a cosmic espionage mission light by appearing to be deep, in the dark side. They infiltrated that to get the goods on them. And that having been said, it is my perception that Obama really is of the light, but his hands have been tied, his family's been threatened, and a lot of things have been going on, no matter who's in there, until this recent change with the underground bases being taken out, and the power league being in position. Nobody could have ever done anything, basically, no matter what they went on to do, because of the control, the blackmail, all of the things that the cabal uses to keep everybody in control. But I think that Obama's experience with the secret Mars program and all of that, and who he really is on another level, once certain things are removed, and as David Wilcox feels the same way, then he will have a chance to act a little more as a sovereign president rather than the puppet that all of them have been. I mean, Eisenhower, when you go back to his time, he wanted to share things after that landing at Edwards Air Force Base on February 20th, 1954. That was 2 years after the Federation of Light buzzed in the nation's capital on July 19th and the 26th of 52, my sources tell me. They wanted to come down immediately, but because of the bureaucratic red tape, kind of like in an original one, not the remake, but the original Day of the Earth Stood Still movie, showing how when the higher being came down and Michael Rainey actor playing him, he wanted to get everybody together, and they're going, well, we can't do that. There's too many problems politically to do it, basically. And he said, I don't care about your petty squabbles. Well, it took him 2 years to land, and Eisenhower met with the ETs. Officially, he was at the dentist with a tooth cap problem, but he was really meeting with the Federation. The three ships landed on the tarmac of what became Edwards Air Force Base, used to be Moorick Field, and Ashtar, my contact, told me, he was in charge of the Ashtar Command, a major command in the Federation. He said to me, I knew we were going to be turned down when we attempted it, but we had to go through diplomatic protocol, as you do in any world you're interacting with. He said that we offered the officials a chance. He said, we wanted to give your people technology, he told Eisenhower, if you will do a couple little things to show benevolent intent. He said, you must relinquish all your thermonuclear warhead as a gesture of peace, and also tell everybody what's going on, what the options are. Well, we had a little thing called the National Security State, which I officially think we need to abolish the National Security Act, because all it does is keep the war machine in place. Mm-hmm. And I think it's time for people, as they rise up around the planet with solidarity and, the Reoccupy group, that we demand this be one of the things. That's what, we need to do that right away. And in the war machine, in the cabal officially, and allow there be no secrets any longer. And I think it's very important because we're part of an intergalactic community. And so they attempted this. Instead, the government chose to work with a group called the Greys, and also ended up cloning these entities and have been they wanted to use this for a negative alien invasion scenario to fool everybody, but the Federation won't allow them. Now that they've taken out their bases and basically caused their anti-gravity ships to no longer function out there, as Gary McKinnon had exposed a number of years ago when he broke into the Pentagon computer. So there's a lot going on that has been happening that a lot of people may be aware of, and I'm mentioning a few things here that are all very much part of the scenario behind the scenes.
Well, when you mentioned the idea of this this faked invasion, I'm sorry, I wasn't quite following. Who was it that you were saying was wanting to cause a fake invasion using these clone
The
birds?
cabal, when, if you go back and you, for those who are aware of Werner von Braun, who came over to the United States and through a thing called Operation Paperclip, all these former Nazis who had actually developed anti-gravity at the end of World War II, by the way. He came over, and he eventually, as the years passed, he connected with a woman named Carol Reisen, who became his assistant. And she said that he had found out from the power elite, the same ones who funded all the wars, they were planning some scenarios to fool humanity so that people were willing to give up their rights and freedoms out of a sense of fear, needing to be secure. And one of those was the war on terror, quote unquote. There would be threats from space, possibly asteroids, which the Federation will stop. That won't be a problem. And that we were, quote, going to ultimately be invaded. That was the ultimate thing to fool us into believing, that we were going to be attacked. But the truth was the higher forces were wanting to intervene. It was just because of a few renegades the government was in touch with that the Federation has recently been able to get out of the way so they won't interfere with that. But this was the plan of the power elite, one of their many scenarios to fool everybody.
Well, what is the end game of this cabal? What is it that they're trying to achieve?
What they were trying to achieve until their bases got taken out, I want to emphasize that point. Well, first of all, I want to say something. It is my understanding that we are now in a new timeline versus the old timeline. The old timeline, the cabal planned martial law. They planned human genocide on a mass level to wipe out, say, 9/10 of humanity and just allow a few to be their slaves. And they plan to, there's all kinds of evidence of the concentration camps and plastic coffins light up in Georgia and cattle cars with human shackles. All that was their plan, but that's not going to happen now because we're in a new timeline. And they thought they definitely could accomplish all this because they have cognitive dissonance. They have been in denial of the divine laws of karma. So it caught up to them recently, and so now they don't have any place to hide, and it's all over. Their goose is cooked. It's officially all over for them. And it may look to some people that it's getting a little worse when all that's happening is all this stuff is being exposed right now, like planetary wounds are coming out. And this next year, I think, is going to be a powerful year for everything being disclosed, everything being brought out, because of the energy's been building up and people are waking up. So their plan is not going according to plan. Instead of them being able to kill off a majority of humanity, higher forces are stepping in and eliminating a vast majority of their plans, and there's a huge number of false flags that the cabal was planning that are not going to happen because the Federation is not going to allow it. The people are waking up, and that's the important point.
Well, excuse me. Who is the mainstays of this cabal? I mean, who is it that's the driving forces behind this? You had mentioned some of these other types of beings, the reptilians and the draconians, as you were mentioning. But I mean, there's got to be some Earth forces too that are part of this. There's got to be some people here on the inside for them.
Well, that's what I'm mainly focusing on. The cabal is primarily the Earth, power elite, the industrial military complex that Eisenhower warned us about. But they've had help with these reptilian entities that are few and far between. David Icke has done a lot of work to expose that. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they're like...
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking for names here, Mike. I'm looking for names.
Yeah, well, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, there's like 13 major banking families that, according to David Icke, and I believe that not everything, but the majority of what he has found in his research are basically reptilian they were reptilian bloodlines that took over the original spiritual nobility, took it over, became the power elite, but now they've been warned that their day is done, and some of the fourth, fifth generation of these families is actually higher beings coming in to infiltrate the dark lineage to bring the light back. It's my perception, like the son Prince William is actually one higher being that's come in to infiltrate the reptilian lineage over there, and this is happening all over the planet. The younger generation that's coming in is ending the reign of that dark power, and now the light's going to start gaining the upper hand very quickly.
So, I mean, how long do we have to be able to hold off? How long do we have to hold them off for? I mean, at what point are they going to
Okay, I keep emphasizing that their day is done. You don't have to hold them off. Just visualize the light, call in the higher forces, do the things that we as higher ethical beings would do anywhere. In other words, we treat others fairly. We've concentrated on focusing on the light. They've been exposed. All of the things they have done have been coming out in recent years. People are very aware of it. I've been involved for years in exposing all this. It's just time now to start focusing on the higher energies, grounding them, and this is why a lot of us in the last 24 hours on 11-11-11 gathered, focused the light, called in the higher forces, asked them to overshadow and enhance this process, and I see a very powerful shift that's taking place right now, and it really started back in 1987 during an event called the Harmonic Convergence. Between that and 2012, that was the transition for Earth. Now, what happened in 87, as the energy started to shift, the Cabal freaked out because they picked up frequency shift. So they came up with the chemtrails on the HARP. They already had started experimenting with the chemtrails a few years earlier, but it really started in the late 80s. Huge amount of these lines across the sky that people initially think are contrails, that they dissipate within a minute. This was petrochemical poisons, and that's been going on for years. And now I've noticed something interesting. After I had experiences in 2003 when I was living in Florida, and everywhere I went, I saw these chemtrail, things across the sky, petrochemical poisons, and they did grid patterns where they would do this, and it would be like for 2 or 3 days, it would be intense artificial clouds, and all this petrochemical crap was starting to come down, and that also caused the Morgellons disease and things like that. Well, I saw a green fireball shoot across the sky. After I was telepathically told to come outside and take a look at the night sky, I went outside, and here comes this green fireball. And the significance was, if we go back to the 1950s, when nuclear testing started in New Mexico and Nevada, there were a huge number of green fireball sightings. And that was the Federation light ships taking the radiation, the excess radiation out of the atmosphere, or would have been a lot worse for the DNA, RNA things, that us being affected by the radiation. Well, when I saw this green fireball, they specifically told me, they actually referred to my readings, my channelings, because in these encodements I mentioned earlier, one of the things that they've been doing is to enhance our immune system. As long as we do take personal responsibility, those encodements are designed to enhance that. Well, they told me they would start stepping in, and as long as we take personal responsibility. And sure enough, as the years passed, I started noticing a lot of these saucer-shaped lenticular clouds, as meteorologists refer to them, appearing not only over mountains but everywhere. And those were the ships in the etheric or physical, and they had ionization around them, and they were specifically beginning to neutralize. And now in more recent months, I noticed something interesting. Instead of the cloud aspect, the artificial stuff, staying up there for a day or two, now within a matter of hours, no matter how intense the chemtrail thing is, I see it starting to dissipate very quickly now. That's because the energy of the planet is shifting, higher forces are stepping in, people's consciousness is raising. So that program is about to totally break down because of what we've been doing as far as grounding the light, because the Federation light's stepping in to stop all of this kind of activity. And it's us and them together. And I refer to them as our extended cosmic family. These human-appearing beings who genetically seeded Earth human on the planet millions of years ago are returning now en masse to prepare us as they lift the planetary quarantine to allow us to become official members in the Federation.
And then what will we gain by being members of that Federation?
Well, as I share in my book, Prepare for the Landings, go to prepareforthelandings.com. You can either order a paperback or get an ebook in different versions. I specifically describe that unlike the old emergency scenarios when they would come down suddenly, no time to prepare people, just they took up a few that were basically ready, would have been ready. Now, in the series of waves they're going to be doing, they are going to help take people up according to how ready we are. And they talk about a vibrational scale, not related to belief so much as our consciousness. Where is our consciousness? And they talk about this scale, depending where you are on the vibrational scale, would kind of determine whether you're prepared to be taken aboard. And there are things you can do, like dietary things to raise your vibrations, like stay away from all the refined processed GMO foods that are very destructive to us, chemical sweeteners and all this, and try to eat a more vegetarian type of diet. And basically, you raise your vibrations, and there's things you can do through meditation. I teach a thing called a cosmic color meditation. One of the DVDs I have available through prepareforthelandings.com is a DVD that teaches people how to channel. and color meditation related to the chakras that I teach. They can raise your vibrations, and wearing crystal can do that. And a lot of different things that, that he's enhancing to your being, enhancing the Mother Earth. That's a good thing to do. And it helps to make it easier and more, it helps to prepare you for these changes coming up and to be lifted aboard the ship when they do, kind of flick that switch, so to speak, and they have the resonating field. They want to make sure that you're in harmony to that field. So if people are eating really unhealthy and they treat their body like a cesspool and they're at a very low vibrational level, you can't be taken up because you would be in conflict with that higher energy beam that's placed upon you. So it's a both personal thing and what they're doing to prepare us for this change.
Well, I mean, I think, even... that's just good advice anyway. even if we weren't trying to achieve this next level and to make it into this federation, but it seems like to me though that in some ways people's skepticism are going to keep them from being able to get with the program. And you called your book "Prepare for the Landing," so I'm assuming that there will be some sort of massive event, a worldwide event that's going to make people start to buy into this really fast.
Well, I think one of the things that I think we're going to see very soon. There's already been some videos of this on YouTube of ships coming down, not that close, but fleets of them high up in the sky flying over. My Astro tells me, and this is coming through other channels and contactees also, that sometime very soon, probably in the coming months, we are going to, could even be weeks, I don't know, we're going to have a number of bigger sightings of the ships being a lot closer in, maybe one or a whole fleet of them flying right over the major cities. And I think they've told me to give kind of cosmic solidarity to the Occupy movement, because that was kind of activated through the Anonymous group originally, which I was recently made an honorary member of, that started, and a lot of these people in part of the Anonymous group that became the Occupy group, there's a lot of whistleblowers from the military who's joined that group, giving their expertise in a lot of levels to overthrow the cabal in kind of, power to the people, not in a violent way, but in a peaceful way, but a very strong, very authoritative, say, hey, we want, take back our power, our freedom. We're tired of the cabal manipulating us. And I see all over the planet a huge waking up taking place. And they can't stop this movement. This is bigger than anything that's ever happened in the past. And I'm very excited about what I see happening. I mean, there's elements that have tried to infiltrate the Occupy movement, like over in Italy and stuff. But overall, it's a very peaceful and empowered movement of people who have woken up, and even the military supporting the movement. They're coming back from the wars, and they're not being given any of their retirement pay. They're not getting any benefits, not getting any help that they were promised. And I think it's going to be very soon. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out in the open that has been withheld from the public.
All right. Well, the book is called Prepare for the Landings. Are you ready? His name is Michael Ellegion. The book is available from prepareforthelandings.com. He also runs the websites vortexnetworknews.com and channelforthemasters.com. And that's where people can get a hold of you, Michael, if they want to have one of these channeling sessions, right?
Yeah, they can. There's phone numbers there, and they can call. And but check out that NASA Star People characteristic list. See how many of the traits you have. And again, I find that people who are drawn to this usually have at least a few to several, or even sometimes as much as a third or more of the list, depending how much of the energy you've been able to retain. But I usually connect with people when they're about to go through a major change. I'm kind of, some people say I'm like the cosmic kick on the butt kind of, because my information helps to give them more clarity and helps them plug more into things that they've been kind of feeling, but kind of gives a little more continuity to their life and helps them understand why they've been, experiencing things the way they are and what their future potential. It kind of helps them understand their mission, their galactic origins, where their soul came from. And to me, when I get the feedback from people all the time, how much greater they understand their purpose and how it helped them really understand confirming their feelings and things of this nature, and I see the potential they have, it's very exciting to see that kind of change happen in people's life, and it's happening all over the place.
All right. Well, again, the book is called Prepare for the Landings. Are you ready? You can get it from prepareforthelandings.com. Michael, thank you for joining us and for sharing your message. And hopefully, as we get a little bit closer, we'll be in contact with you and have you come back and talk a little bit more about how we can get ready for these changes, because this book is the first in a series, as you'll find out more on prepareforthelandings.com. Thank you again, Michael. All right, we will be right back in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about the Rhode Island Paranormal Festival coming up tomorrow, and we'll also talk some more about Claire the Doll, and we'll get Monize's take on what we've been discussing for the last little bit of time, too. So stay tuned. We will be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast.
first with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, AM 1420. WBSM, a Cumulus station.
From ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. They may agree on some things, but the Republicans who want to be president are far apart on others. ABC's Chuck Sievertson has more on tonight's debate.
Herman Cain and Michelle Bachmann said they'd reinstate waterboarding.
I don't see it as torture. I see it as an enhanced interrogation technique.
Ron Paul.
Waterboarding is torture and many other things. It's illegal under international law and under our law.
John Huntsman and Ron Paul said it's time for all U.S. troops to leave Afghanistan. Rick Perry.
Our military is doing the best job that they can, considering the lack of support that they're getting from this administration of telegraphing to the enemy when we're going to pull out.
Clips from the CBS News coverage. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
President Obama got a jump start on the Asia-Pacific Summit, holding one-on-ones with the leaders of Russia and China. He's also outlined a Pacific Trade Zone agreement. Here's ABC's Ann Compton in Honolulu.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership is taking shape.
I'm confident that we can get this done.
President Obama told the 9 other leaders that the new free trade zone they are designing would help all of them make money with exports.
Create more goods available for our consumers, create good jobs.
Japan joined the talks, making the potential zone huge. Ann Compton, ABC News, Honolulu.
This has been a rough week for Penn State University, the school reeling from the firing of longtime football coach Joe Paterno over a child sex abuse scandal involving a former assistant coach. And it ended with the Nittany Lions losing to Nebraska 17-14.
Well, it was unprecedented probably ever in the history of college sports what went on here. And we are, really, we grieve for the victims. We feel sad for the families, the children. I think they saw the student body today, the support that they had for the children and the victims that were all here today. And a lot of the things that went on today was all about them.
Interim head coach Tom Bradley, you're listening to ABC News.
You're stranded by the side of the road. It's raining, 1 in the morning, and your car has a flat tire. Too bad your motor club membership expired years ago. Who can you call for help? Allstate wants everyone to be protected on the road. So before this happens to you, give them a call. Because right now, Allstate is giving every driver in America a free lifetime membership in Good Hands Roadside Assistance just for calling. You don't even have to be an Allstate customer. You'll get 24/7 access and low flat rates on everything from tows to tire changes. So down the road, when you need help, you'll know you're in good hands.
Call a local agent or 888-ALL-STATE today and get a lifetime membership in Good Hands Roadside Assistance absolutely free. You can't afford not to call. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability.
Shop less, get more. Make one call to an Allstate agent.
Muhammad Ali will attend Monday's private funeral of fellow boxer Joe Frazier. Many stood in line today for a public viewing in Frazier's hometown of Philadelphia.
All around, Joe was a classy guy, off and out of the ring. So it's only right that show last respect.
Frazier succumbed this week to cancer. In this economy, there's apparently no shame among thieves. ABC's Richard Cantu has the story.
Spurred by high prices, copper thieves have struck Lincoln's Tomb in Springfield, Illinois. An employee recently noticed that the copper statue of a Civil War artillery officer atop the tomb was missing a 3-foot-long sword. The sword was broken off at the handle and was taken sometime between September and early November. The rest of the statue was spared significant damage. A spokesman for the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency tells the State Journal-Register the theft is believed to be the first estate property at the tomb since 1890, when the same sword was stolen. Officials plan to repair the statue. Richard Cantu, ABC News.
Some parents in Compton, California were not happy to learn that a former porn actress had read to children at an elementary school as part of Read Across America Day. Sasha Gray tweeted earlier this month that she had read to first and third graders. Some parents said they would have preferred a police officer or a fireman to have read to the children. This is ABC News.
Is it time for a new roof? Get your roofing job done right. Call Sears Roofing right now for a free in-home estimate. That's Sears Roofing. Not available in all areas. Installation provided by Sears authorized licensed contractors. License information available upon request. Call Sears Roofing right now. 1-888-990-2233. That's 1-888-990-2233. 1-888-990-2233. Sears.
Daria Alvinger, ABC News.
This is Jack Peterson with the latest featured animal up for adoption at the Forever Paws Animal Shelter in Fall River. Her name is Precious, and she's a large black and white American Stratfordshire Terrier Hound mix who's 3 years old. Her easygoing personality and kind face makes her quite desirable. She knows how to sit, is working on her other commands, and is a true love bug. Precious loves to play, go for long walks, and enjoys the companionship of other dogs. However, cats are not her favorite thing. She'd do best in a family with older children. Currently, Precious is patiently waiting at the shelter for someone who wants to become her best friend. You can brighten up her day by visiting her at the shelter and bringing a delicious treat. She loves to eat. For more information, call the shelter at 508-677-9154 or visit their website at foreverpaws.com.
We've been talking to people about the work being done at Child Fund, an international organization devoted to helping children living in poverty. Here's what they had to say.
As an architect, I do like Child Fund's program to install solar panels at schools to allow children to study early morning and at night.
I love the work that they do with the Maasai women by building a school where these girls can get an education and not have to be married off at such a young age. And it's amazing that Child Fund is caring in that way.
I think it's incredible that Child Fund's creating these solutions for children in impoverished areas.
You know, I'm from Texas and everything is big, but Child Fund's impact is so impressive.
Knowing that Child Fund has been around for 70 years, enriching the lives of less fortunate children around the world, thank you, Child Fund, for doing a phenomenal job.
If you'd like to learn more, visit childfund.org. That's childfund.org. Child Fund. Innovative solutions. One child at a time.
AM 1420, WBSM, is proud to be part of one of the single biggest events to help build the Red Cross food pantries. Cans Across the Park is Saturday, November 19th at Buttonwood Park in New Bedford. Last year, we lined up canned food items across the park and back again. We want to do even better this year, as the need has grown. Join us on November 19th with as many non-perishable food items as you can donate. It does so much for so many of our neighbors. We thank our partners: Emma Jean's Cupcake Factory, Ice Cream Shop, and Candy House, Hammer, Waxler, Allen & Collins, Worley Bedding, and ABC Disposal for joining us in Cans Across the Park with the American Red Cross and AM 1420, WBSM.
I'm working 2 jobs, and my husband works too. My kids go to school with your kids. I sit next to you at PTA meetings. We live right next door. We've been neighbors for years. You know my family and me pretty well, but here's one thing you don't know. I'm 1 out of every 6 Americans, and my family is struggling with hunger. Like you, we believe in this country. What's hard to believe is in the land of milk and honey, how many hardworking Americans have to choose between paying bills and feeding their families. This is a problem with a solution. Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help. Every dollar you donate helps provide 7 meals for those around you quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Music on the radio, the way you remember it, on the AM dial. It's the Forgotten 45s. Every Friday afternoon from 1 till 2, Scott Reniche plays those almost forgotten hits from the 1970s. Make your request and listen to all those great hits you haven't heard in years. You'll say, oh yeah, I remember that one. Don't forget the Forgotten 45s, every Friday from 1 till 2 on AM 1420 WBSM.
Spooky South Coast is back.
It's Saturday night. I have no date. A 2-liter bottle of Shasta and my All Rush mixtape. Let's rock.
I can smell your fears. I'm not afraid. You will be. Welcome to Spooky Southcoast.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz, broadcasting live on WBSM and also on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com. And if you go to SpookySouthCoast.com and check out the camera, you can see our guest in the studio with us tonight, Claire the Haunted Doll. We do have her sitting right there. Moniz, why don't you just pull the headphones off, just so that if she does decide to move her head, we can catch it on camera. And just slide that mic out of the way. She's obviously not going to contribute anything vocally to the program. We told her she could feel free to ask questions, but I guess she's a little shy. I mean, when you come here, Claire, and when you sit in with the Spooky crew, you're part of the crew. So feel free to just jump in and join in the discussion at any point. We really would like to hear your thoughts and opinions. One of the things that I've been talking about with her owner, Jill, is the possibility of provoking more out of her and trying to get her to give us some kind of reaction. So maybe we'll do that a little bit more into the show as we go along. So definitely, if you're home, turn on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com so you can see what's going on when we try that a little bit later on. But we just had an interesting first hour discussion with Michael Ellegion about his book, Prepare for the Landings. Are you ready? It's the first in a series of books that will prepare us for what he says is the coming transformation of ourselves and our planet into moving into that intergalactic federation. So, and Moniz was very restrained in a lot of what he said, but this is a similar message to a lot of what we're hearing from people who claim to be contactees, that this, the idea of this coming of the light and the idea that we need to focus more on the light and wash a lot of this negativity away.
Well, it's the same message, just different messenger. If you go back to George Adamski, Fry, or even Billy Meyer, for that matter, all of the famous contactees, they all say roughly the same things, and it's not bad things necessarily or anything like that. They all have their own little versions and names that will go along with, but the basic message of, be good to each other and work in harmony with yourself and your environment, and, clean up your act and straighten up, fly right. That's, like I said, it's the same message. We just have a different person, saying it.
And what he's saying, our contactee situations in 2011 and throughout the course of his life might have been seen as, some kind of divine intervention to a different culture at a different time.
Right.
It's all in just the different ways that we perceived it. But again, if you want to check out his book, it's called Prepare for the Landings. Are you ready? And you can get it at prepareforthelandings.com. Now, there's also going to be a bunch of discussion and paranormal books and all kinds of things happening tomorrow at the Northern Rhode Island Paranormal and Metaphysical Fest. That's happening tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Elks Lodge, located at 326 Farnham Pike in Smithfield, Rhode Island. And we have Pam Patalano on the line with us, who's going to be putting together this event. Pam, it sounds like you're getting some real great reaction from people in the local paranormal community.
Yeah, we seem to have quite a few people that wanted to do this event, and it's taken on a life of its own, so to speak.
So, I mean, when you first starting to put all this stuff together, did you ever think that it would have the response that it has? Because it just seems like, paranormal investigators and people interested in it are coming out of the woodwork.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. And it just started out, it was just going to be a book signing for Andrew Lake and, a few paranormal teams. But I had such an overwhelming response that I had to make it much larger than that. So, it's going to be pretty big. I think we're expecting about 300 people.
And you've got a full slate of presentations happening, too.
Yes, we do about 14 to 15 presenters tomorrow.
But what are some of the topics that will be covered?
Well, we have Andrew Lake will be talking about some of his most famous hauntings. I have Matt Moniz coming on, speaking about Lizzie Borden. Myself and Tiffany Rice will be having a question and answer, half an hour, about what it's like to be a spirit medium or a psychic medium. We have Ken from Rise Up, who will be speaking about paranormal investigations. And we have Keith and Sandra Johnson talking about demonology and the paranormal. And I also have Robin Marie, who contacted me, who wanted to participate in this event. And she's also a medium, and she'll be on making a presentation, along with Julie Griffin, who is a spirit photographer. So that's just a few of the people that we have. But we have many, many more, and it's going to be very exciting.
And, of course, the star of the show will be there, the man who's going to demand special treatment.
Yes, he will.
I don't think she realizes yet what she's dealing with Jeff Belanger.
Oh, you were talking about Jeff. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, believe me. Jeff is, you're going to have the fresh rose petals on the back seat of his limo when arrives to pick him up. And, the red carpet will be laid out before he'll get out. You're taking notes, right?
Of course.
It has to be 14 bottles of Avion kept at room temperature, and a brandy glass full of brown M&Ms.
Okay. Well, I can do the brown M&Ms, absolutely.
Only brown M&Ms.
You're forgetting the small, brass band to play each time he walks from room to room.
Well, that could be pre-recorded. He's fine with that. But, if that's going to be the case, the palm fronds have to be real and not artificial.
Okay.
So he's a very picky guy.
Okay, well, I'll keep that in mind tomorrow when I'm running around.
Yeah, we're just kidding around. He's awesome. He's going to give a great presentation, as I'm sure all the speakers will. So it's definitely worth getting down there to check out. It's only $8 for the tickets?
$8 for the tickets.
I mean, that's a full slate of information and for entertainment for only $8. I mean, for less than the cost of going to see a movie, you're going to get to hear all these people speak and interact with all these paranormal investigators and mediums, and it just sounds like in the time that you have it scheduled for, there's still not going to be enough time to see and do everything.
I think you're right. There's probably not going to be enough time, but we'll make it work. It'll work.
But here's the real important question that everybody really wants to know: Will there be food?
There's going to be some food.
Just bring donuts for Moniz. That's all he needs.
Okay, Matt, I'll have you covered tomorrow as well.
All right.
And Jeff requires Swedish fish. Actually, he usually brings his own, so you don't have to worry about that.
All right, I'll see what I can do, actually.
So, again, it's at the Elks Lodge at 326 Farnham Pike in Smithfield, Rhode Island. And it's real easy to get to, right?
Yes, it is. It's not far from the exit 7 off 295.
So, and again, it starts at 9 a.m., so get there nice and early. You don't want to miss any of the things that are going on. And Pam, hopefully you can join us on an upcoming episode, as you did with Tiffany Rice on Spirit Connections this week, where you can come into the studio here and talk with us a little bit about your gifts and how you use them on investigations. We'll have Andy come in and we'll talk about how you guys work as a team, because I got to tell you, I was pretty shocked when I found out that Andrew actually uses a medium when he goes out and investigates. Knowing the way that he feels, I mean, I know that you must have really wowed him for him to work with you like that.
I think I have. I think I've proven myself time and again.
All right. Well, so we'll definitely have you come in and talk about some of those adventures.
That'd be great. I'd love it.
All right. Good luck with everything tomorrow. I'm hoping to get there if work permits, but I know Moniz will definitely be there, and people are talking in the chat room about making plans to meet up, so I think it's going to be a great turnout for you. Great.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Talk to you soon.
See you tomorrow, Pam.
All right. Bye-bye, Matt.
Bye-bye. All right, that is Pam Patalano. She is putting together the Northern Rhode Island Paranormal and Metaphysical Fest. That's, again, tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Elks Lodge at the 326 Farnham Pike in Smithfield, Rhode Island. And you don't have to go there the entire day if you can't make it. I'm sure some people are going to want to, sleep in a little bit on Sunday morning. You might miss the first couple of presentations, but there's still plenty of stuff going on all day. You could show up at 6:45, and it would still be worth your $8 ticket admission. So, and again, it's till 7 o'clock. That gives you like an hour and 20 minutes to get home before the Patriots start. So you've got plenty of time. If Jeff Belanger is going to an event on a day that the Patriots are playing, then you know you've got plenty of time to get home before the game starts. So there you go. Now, we were talking before about how we have Claire the Haunted Doll here with us in the studio. Excuse me. And we are keeping an eye on her on the wide shot cam, and I've been running the close-up a little bit on her as well, too. And you can see, she's pretty relaxed and pretty reserved. But some of the stories that I heard about this doll, and I'm in the process of trying to get her owner, Jill, to come on with us as well. So, Jill, if you're listening, I'm messaging you here trying to get you on. Hold on. So we'll just keep doing that. But some of the stories that she's told me about it got me really interested. And I said to her, do you still have the doll? And she said, I got it somewhere. She'd actually stored it in a closet and really kind of not forgot about her, but decided not to take her out for a very long time. So when I asked her if she could share her with me for the project that I'm working on with Chris Balzano, she said sure, and she actually mailed her to me. She arrived protected, of course, but she came the day that I took her out of the box. I put my EMF detector up against her and got a spike, which was pretty interesting. It lasted for a minute or so, and then it went back down again. And I tried again over the course of a couple of days, and nothing was really happening. But I did bring her with me into the Standard Times newsroom when I recorded our high school football web show the other night. And the same wide shot camera that we use here on Spooky Southcoast, we use the exact same equipment to record that show. And that same wide shot camera, which anybody that watches Spooky TV every week can tell you, never really gives us a problem in terms of the quality of the image. All of a sudden it started doubling up on the image. And if you watch the show, it's called Southcoast End Zone, and it's available on my Facebook page, and it's on Ustream, Southcoast End Zone. And if you watch it, you can actually see where the image starts kind of doubling up, almost like when you're watching the blue and red 3D movies without the glasses on, and you see the double image. It's almost like that, and it's never happened before, and it happened during the recording of that show with the doll not more than 4 feet away from where we were doing it. So right now, it seems like she's behaving herself, and she's not causing any problem with our equipment. We did have that weird thing happening with Matt's mic, but that could be the equipment here in the studio. We can't account that as being something paranormal. But we're going to wait and see if Jill can join us to talk to us for a few minutes about Claire the doll, and if not, I'll share the stories. I don't mind, because they sent a chill down my spine. So why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more. We'll have Claire here, and we'll start trying to evoke some kind of response from her. And maybe we'll even let you guys call in and try and do that as well. If you have any questions or want to get involved in the discussion, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. Those are numbers. We'll be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast.
Unfortunately, many people facing foreclosure believe they're on a one-way street.
How did I end up here?
Please take next exit.
What? But there is no exit.
It may not seem that way now, but I'm giving you the right directions to help you save your home from foreclosure.
Okay, talking to my GPS. I must really need help.
Facing foreclosure alone is stressful. That's why you need advice from a HUD-approved housing counselor. They offer expert, trustworthy advice that might help you avoid foreclosure no matter how difficult the situation seems.
It's difficult, all right.
And best of all, the advice is free.
Wow.
Now please exit this road you've been on for far too long.
Facing foreclosure? Don't go it alone. Get the right directions from a HUD-approved housing counselor today. For more information, visit www.hud.gov/fairhousing. That's hud.gov/fairhousing.
A public service message from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
AM 1420, WBSM, and Wines and More are sending you on a Christmas stroll weekend in Nantucket. You and a guest will fly to the beautiful island on Cape Air and then experience the enchanting holiday tradition of Nantucket's Christmas stroll and enjoy a romantic dinner at a fine restaurant. To win, simply log on to WBSM.com, or you can increase your chance to win by signing up in person at Wines and More, located at Wareham Crossing. Pete Braley and Neil White will announce the winner on the Monday before Thanksgiving. The Nantucket Christmas Stroll with Wines and More and AM 1420 WBSM.
This is Jack Peterson with the latest featured animal up for adoption at the Forever Paws Animal Shelter in Fall River. Her name is Precious, and she's a large black and white American Stratfordshire Terrier Hound mix who's 3 years old. Her easygoing personality and kind face makes her quite desirable. She knows how to sit, is working on her other commands, and is a true love bug. Precious loves to play, go for long walks, and enjoys the companionship of other dogs. However, cats are not her favorite thing. She'd do best in a family with older children. Currently, Precious is patiently waiting at the shelter for someone who wants to become her best friend. You can brighten up her day by visiting her at the shelter and bringing a delicious treat. She loves to eat. For more information, call the shelter at 508-677-9154 or visit their website at foreverpaws.com.
Major League Baseball players are getting in on the action.
Hi, I'm Michael Young.
I'm Chris Young.
I'm Carlos Pena, and we're getting in on the action. Thousands of high school students across the country are getting in on the action by volunteering in their communities.
Action teams of high school students are joining Volunteers of America and Major League Baseball players to help train and inspire the next generation of volunteers.
It's easy to start an action team at your school, so you too can get in on the action. Are you in?
Log on to actionteam.org. Are you in?
My name is Sue Smith. I'm 38 years old, and I work at a graphic design company, which is funny, because I couldn't even draw a stick figure when I was a kid. But I met someone who told me, you know what? You can do anything if you really want to. And if the teenage me were here, she'd tell you,
I wouldn't be into drawing and art if it wasn't for big brothers, big sisters. Most kids from my neighborhood don't get into art. They get into trouble. But I was lucky because my big sister showed me early on that I didn't have to be like most people. And to the young me,
that meant a lot. My big sister's name is Sheila, and Sheila is the reason that this 8-year-old grows up to have an amazing job as a graphic designer.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping big brothers, big sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Josh Holloway. Growing up near the Great Smoky Mountains, the national parks have always been a part of my life. They're living, breathing monuments to our nation's history and culture and need our care and support. I can't imagine a day when these natural treasures may not be around to enjoy, but years of underfunding, pollution, and climate change have taken their toll. So join me and the National Parks Conservation Association in ensuring our national parks are available for future generations. For more, visit preservetheparks.com.
AM 1420, WBSM, the place on the dial for New England Patriots football. The first half of the season is behind them. There's been changes to the roster, and now it's up to Tom Brady and Wes Welker to drive towards the playoffs. Hear every play with Gil Santos and Gino Capoletti. Patriots football, presented by Southern Mass Credit Union, by the Butcher Shop at Vasco da Gama, by Worley Beds, and by Hamill, Waxler, Allen, and Collins. The Patriots on AM 1420 WBSM.
Turn on all your lights, lock the doors, and pull down the shades. Spooky South Coast is back.
All right, welcome back to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz. If you are listening on the radio but you're at home, or if you're somewhere where you can log into Spooky TV, hopefully you're not driving, but if you can log into Spooky TV on SpookySouthCoast.com, you definitely want to check that out, because we have Claire the Haunted Doll in the studio with us. She's right there in the bottom left-hand corner of your wide shot, and we're going to be switching over a few times to the close-up as well. We were talking about some of the experiences that I've had with her since I got her in the mail a few days ago on loan from her owner, Jill. And now we have Jill on the phone with us. She's going to share with us some of these stories, which, again, I mentioned is in our forthcoming book. There'll be a lot more information about the doll there. I'm going to chronicle what goes on while I have her over the next few days before I send her back to Jill. But let's get a little bit of the background because everybody in the chat room is asking about it, Jill. I put out the call for people who have haunted objects or who have some sort of possessed or cursed object, and I still would like to hear from you. You can just email me, tim@spookysouthcoast.com, or even better, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com, because then Chris and I will both get it. But Jill, you responded right away and told me the story about Claire, and it blew me away when I finally read your account of what went on.
Well, I was actually kind of surprised that you believe me, because most of the people I tell it to always give me this kind of eye roll, scoffing type reaction.
Oh no, I've had enough dealings with porcelain dolls in my lifetime to not believe what you say. I mean, I've been creeped out by them enough over the course of my life that I believe any story anybody wants to tell me about one of these things.
Well, she's the reason I do not allow dolls anywhere near my house, anywhere near me. I don't do dolls, and the fact that I was willing to go and dig her out of the closet for you should be a sign about how much I like you.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for driving around the car. Now we've got her here set up with the camera on her, and what I've done is I've put a pair of headphones right next to her with the volume turned up all the way so that she will hear your voice, and maybe there'll be some kind of reaction from her in that regard. Also, Matt Costa, if you can, and if it causes any problems, we can not do it with the headphones open like that. But if you could turn up that mic that's right next to her as well, because one of the stories, Jill, that you told me is that while you were transporting her to ship her out to me, you were hearing sounds coming from what might have been the doll.
Yeah, I had her in my trunk, actually, because I just didn't want her particularly close to me. But as I was driving, I swore I heard a female talking, and I thought it was actually my phone, like maybe I accidentally pocket dialed somebody and they were talking, trying to get my attention, hello, hello, whatever. But I would pick up my phone and it was not dialed anybody, and I would turn down the radio and I could still kind of hear it, but then it would stop. So I turned the radio back on and, drove on some more, and then I'd hear it again and just repeated the process. And I was finally like, well, I guess maybe it's Claire, maybe she's trying to talk to me.
Why don't we start with how you first came to own Claire?
I was about 8 years old, and actually a family friend / she was my Sunday school teacher at one point too, gave me this doll. She said that she thought she looked like me and wanted me to have her, and I wasn't ever really a doll person. I was kind of a tomboy growing up. I'd rather play with Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than the doll. So I took her home and I put her in this child-sized rocking chair that I owned and just kind of left her there.
Well, it's kind of an interesting story, the where she came from. I mean, she was given to you by a friend of the family, and the fact that when dolls are given as gifts, I mean, most of the time you got to be, you ask for a Cabbage Patch and you get a porcelain doll. You know what I mean? I mean, most of the time it's not what you had in mind in terms of a doll that you would play with. And you saying that you didn't really play with dolls to begin with, did it seem like an odd choice for her to give it to you, or was it kind of just one of those sweet old lady, they think girls play with dolls anyway type of things?
Well, she was always giving me stuff. She also gave me this toy rabbit that was almost dressed exactly like Claire. And again, it just wasn't something I was interested in. She gave me some little figurines. She was just the type of person, if she came across something and it reminded you, or it reminded her of you, she wanted to give it to you.
And did she have experiences with this doll before she gave it to you?
Yes. I did find that out in the course of actually doing the research for the story for you, that she kind of came out of nowhere in Miss Marion's house. And about the time she came out of nowhere, she started moving around on her own. She would go from the shelf that she originally put her on to the stool to the couch. And nobody ever knew how she was getting moved around.
Well, And when she came to your house, what was some of the phenomena that you first noticed with her?
The first thing I kind of noticed was when I was playing in my room, I always kind of felt like she was watching me, kind of keeping an eye on me, almost to the point where if I did something bad, I almost thought she might go and tell on me. You know, that kind of, you know, almost parental supervision type watch. And the next things that happened were I had a carousel music box that sat on my dresser, and it was the type that, you know, you had to wind it up. It was an old mechanical thing, and the carousel horse would move up and down as the music played. And, Claire was sitting in the rocking chair, which was positioned right next to my dresser. And there was this time I was actually reading a book of ghost stories, because I've been into the paranormal as long as I can remember. All of a sudden, the music box started playing, and it wasn't like, you know, if you have an old mechanical music box and you, you know, vibrate something and it starts to play. It was not like that. It actually full out started playing, like, you know, the whole song, and the horse started moving up and down. I just kind of sat there and watched in silence as it happened, and all of a sudden it just stopped. It wasn't like it wound down, it just stopped. And I was like, okay, but it wasn't scary. It was just one of the things. It's like, you know, wow, that just happened. How did that just happen, kind of thing.
Jill, I'm just going to put you on hold for 1 second here. Matt, if you can just pop her button off. No, not the doll. Jill's button. I'm just trying to figure out if that sound is coming from that microphone or not. Might be from the phone? Okay. We're just, as we're talking to you, we're hearing this like scratchy sound here in the studio, and we weren't sure where it was coming from exactly, so we were wondering if it was coming from the mic that we put on Claire. So we just wanted to kind of double check. So, I mean, it sounds to me like, you know, she wanted you to know that she was aware of your presence. You know, that she wanted you to know that there was something more to her than just being a doll, but wasn't trying to be, you know, particularly scary or particularly malevolent.
No, she never was scary. But like I said, she was kind of unnerving, kind of that, you know, watchful gaze thing going on. And I honestly let her be, and I didn't automatically attribute the music box thing to Claire. I had stuff happen to me from a very early age on. So the music box didn't necessarily equal haunted doll to me. It was just another strange thing that happened in my house.
Yeah, I mean, you'd mentioned to me in some of the communication that you sent to me that there were other spirits in the house. I mean, what about after you put the doll away? I mean, did things continue on?
Well, there was always what I call the shadow man, and he has been a continuous presence until this day. I mean, even, you know, I had friends who would come spend the night and would see him, and even now, my sister-in-law, when she's there, she's experienced him. And so he's always been there, but I don't attribute him to Claire. The only thing that has kept happening after we put Claire away was this woman would literally, like, it felt like she was like inches from my face, and she would just scream my name, like, Jill, wake up. And I'd always, you know, like, sit upright, you look around, nobody's there. And she did that to me for years, I mean, even really up until I moved out of my parents' house. And then she started doing the same thing to my brother. And now that he's gone, she moved on to my dad. And he even told me just recently that he's heard the woman calling his name in the middle of the night.
Well, I mean, we've got her here, and you know, if you have anything that you want to say to her, feel free to. She'll hear you over those headphones that we have.
Claire, I'm so sorry that your hair's a mess, dear. You can blame that on Tim.
She's the way she came out of the box. You know, the travel must have had an effect on her. I don't have any doll combs or anything like that kicking around my house. You know, me, my wife, and my 7-year-old son. So we know we're not used to caring for dolls in the house. But my wife did bring up her porcelain doll from the basement that she has saved. So if Claire wants some company, she has some.
Just hope she doesn't, you know, jump from Claire to your wife's doll.
No, that's not going to happen. Let's not talk about that. That's not going to happen. But we do, and Matt Cost is actually watching that weird video. That is a little strange. You have to admit that we've never seen that happen. But that could have, I would say that could have been the faulty, like the low internet connection of where we were going, because we were working off wireless, but none of the other cameras were affected. You can see when we cut to the other shot. But anyway, that's something that we can talk about off the air. Well, we have her here. We have the camera on her. We have a microphone on her. So, I mean, we could try and see if we can get some kind of a rise out of her. Moniz, I know that you have some experience, especially working with Robert the Doll, the famous Robert the Doll that people have heard about, which there will be stories about Robert in our book as well. But, I mean, why don't you try and see if you can get any kind of reaction out of her?
The only way I'd be able to get a reaction out of her would be to physically move her at this point. I mean, I've just met her. She's like very many other porcelain dolls I've seen before. And this is not the first haunted porcelain doll I've come across either. Most cases you find of haunted objects are children's toys.
And that could be, because of the energy that kids expel.
Right.
Some of that residual energy is tied into the object. But, I mean, that doesn't account for them almost having their own intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, that's in the Lizzie Borden house, the doll that's usually on the bed and the teddy bear. The two will exchange positions. The teddy bear will wind up sitting on the doll's lap, and they move around the room, and that happens quite often in that house. So I really would like to have some time to put Claire in a particular room and location.
You want some time alone with your doll, Jill?
Hey, let's not go there.
No, but we're actually planning on bringing her to Lizzie Borden's, Jill, so she's actually going to get there well ahead of your visit.
Oh, not fair.
We'll take pictures.
Okay.
But, I mean, there is, there's a lot of stories about the toys in that house being moved around. So part of the plan that we have is to leave her in the third floor chimney room where the children spirits are supposedly playing with these toys, and then go into a different part of the house and seeing what happens. And also, actively trying some experiments with her there as well. So, I mean, maybe it could be a case of there's a new toy in the house and the kids want to come out and play with it.
I hope they do. I really hope that she does act up for you, but, I mean, she has been in a box for 18 years, so maybe she's a little rusty.
Well, I did mention now that when I took her out of the box, I did get a big EMF spike, almost like it was some stored up energy, that she had, and she just expelled it when she came out. But she's been very, very well behaved. I actually, the first day that I had her, as I mentioned, I took her with me to record the high school web show, and that was mainly because I didn't want to leave her alone in the house and have something go on and have nobody be there to perceive it because nobody was home. So I thought it best if she came with me in case she started acting up. And I put her in the car with a seatbelt over her right in the front seat. And
Well, you're showing respect. But now here's something I'd like to see you try. I want you to take Claire, since I assume you're taking her with you at home tonight.
Yeah, but she stays away from the rest of the family. Yeah.
Okay, well, take her to a neutral outside location or someplace where you're different than where you normally hang out, and start an EVP session with her.
I have.
You've already done this?
I've been running. What I've done is I've run a tape recorder while I'm in the same room as her, while I'm working in the office. I'll leave a tape recorder with her, just because I know what's going on with that tape recorder at that point in time. You know what I mean? Like,
but
so
you haven't actively questioned, quote unquote, this doll.
I've been letting her. I'll just tell her once in a while, if you have something to say, feel free to say it. But I haven't been engaging in a one-on-one session. I was thinking we could save that for when we're at Lizzie Borden's, just because I think the conditions there are more likely to amplify any type of activity that might be associated with this doll.
Right, but I wanted to see if the doll does something outside of Lizzie's, because we know we can get all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
from
but
Lizzie.
I kind of don't want to get her actively going in my own house.
That's why I said take her out to a neutral location.
Yeah, well, I'm a lazy bum. I'm sorry, what, Jill?
I said, don't be scared of her, Tim.
Well,
I was 8 years old and I wasn't even running away from her.
It's not that I'm scared of her so much as it is, I've made my house kind of a ghost-free zone, and I've tried to keep it that way. So I don't want bringing one object in there and, riling it up. I don't want that to open the door for other things to feel like it can come in. Says the guy who always says, I don't believe anything can follow me home. But if anybody out there has any questions that you think we should ask of the doll, if you want to call in and do so yourself, the numbers are 1-877-996-1420. or 508-996-0500. Those are the ways to get a hold of us. There's some people talking about it in the chat room, so there might be some questions there that pop up. But one of the things that I've noticed as Chris and I are writing about these objects are most of the objects that we're hearing about are things that people have some sort of attachment to, whether it be good or bad. They already have an association with that object. There we go. when they're sharing the story, when they're having these experiences, they've already kind of made up their mind about the object. And it seems like with you, Jill, you just had a very neutral approach to her when you received her as a gift.
Well, I mean, yeah, because she wasn't the first gift I've been given by Miss Marion. So even though, I mean, like I said, I've never been a doll person. She's not especially creepy to look at, but just, I don't know if you've noticed, just holding her, you almost kind of get a little bit of a creepy vibe.
Oh, I feel that way around any person.
I was going to say, any guy holding a doll is going to have a creepy vibe.
Yeah, that's true. But when I showed her to my wife was like, "Oh, she's very pretty." I thought it was going to be, a doll with a little bit more of a creepy factor than that. But, she thought her to be a very, beautiful example of a porcelain doll.
Well, since Miss Marion did say that, she reminded her of me, I would hope that she'd be pretty.
But when you hear stories, about something being haunted, you expect the worst. And then when something like Claire arrives, one thing that I did notice about her, though, is, she does have that expressionless face that so many of these porcelain dolls have. And that's what makes them especially intriguing when you're hearing stories about them, because so many of the stories have not just the eye movement, which a lot of these dolls have eyes that will move from side to side as you move the doll. But what people talk about is the fact that the expression on the doll changes. And when you look at it, you say, okay, well, that could be a trick of the light. But really, if you're looking at the face of the doll right now on Spooky TV, you can tell, for a doll like this, and I'm not saying that Claire does, but similar dolls, to break open into a wide grin, which is some of the stories that I've heard, or to open their mouth and talk, that's a drastic change from the way that the face is painted onto the porcelain.
Oh, no, she's never done that. The only thing that she's ever moved were her feet and her head, and that was the line I drew and put her away.
And I know that you had said to me in the communication that you had with me that when you tried telling your parents about the Shadow Man and some other stories, that you were met with some disbelief from them. But did you share with them the story of the music boxes?
Well, I didn't tell about the first time the music box went off because, I mean, if my mom didn't believe me about something as big as, seeing the Shadow Man, and that was almost a daily occurrence, she didn't believe me then. Why would she believe me about something as mundane as the music box playing by itself? Because she would logically try and explain it away, which is fine, but you want your parents to believe you when you're having this kind of stuff, because it kind of makes you feel alone as a child.
Or at least pretend to believe you. I mean, at least come in and be soothing about it.
Which my mom is a little more open to the stuff I've told her as an adult. I guess she figures if I'm holding on to the story that long, I wasn't just making it up as a child.
Mm-hmm.
But, I felt kind of like I didn't have anybody to really turn to, because my mom didn't believe me. My dad, he may have believed me, but, if I couldn't tell my mom, I wasn't going to tell my dad, kind of thing. So I was just keeping it to myself.
Well, now the question that I do have to ask is, when we bring her out and we finish with all these tests and we get her all riled up, and when I send her back to you, what are the plans for what you plan to do with her afterwards? Are you going to put her back in the bucket and put her back in the closet, or?
No, I told you can keep her.
Really?
Yeah, if you want to keep her, you can.
Nobody's ever given me a doll before.
Oh,
well,
there's a first time for everything.
I mean, there was that weird aunt that tried, but that's because for the first 14 years of my life, she insisted that I was a girl named Tammy.
I heard about that.
Yeah, well, she's also the one that used to give us, canned goods for Christmas that were like a year past their expiration date. So.
Oh, that's very nice.
I'm just kidding. There's everybody knows the crazy aunts in my family. We've had them on the show.
Well, you could always donate her to Lizzie Borden if she wants to go and stay with the other.
I was thinking what we could do is we could take her on the Paranormal tour and introduce her to Robert and see if maybe they hit it off.
Well, that'd be cool, since I didn't get to meet Robert when I was down there.
Yeah, I've never met him either, but Moniz has, Chris Balzano has, and Dave definitely told me that doll has the creepy factor.
That doll has a serious creepy factor.
Yeah, just seeing pictures of him and the specials on TV I've seen of him, he is definitely creepy.
And the one that creeps me out maybe even more than Robert is Annabelle the doll, who is in the possession of Lorraine Warren, just because it's a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yes, and actually I was so relieved when I found that story, because I was like, okay, it's not just me experiencing, a creepy doll thing going on.
I actually, I went into the Salvation Army, my local Salvation Army the other day, because I'm always going in and checking out, some good deals. I'm a bargain hunter, as anybody that knows me knows. And so I walked in there, and right in the glass case where they have all the higher end items, they had for $99 a set of porcelain Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls. And I took one look at it, and I said, even if it was $9, I don't think I would take. Even if it was 99 cents, I don't think I would want to take those two things home.
Neither.
So, I can tell you, we've talked a lot with Brian Harnwell. We've been investigating with Brian Harnwell, and he talks all the time about how dolls are the one thing that creeps him out. So I'm just thinking maybe one night, because I'm talking to Jay Mayo this week, I think, and Brian. But I think what I should do is maybe one night when they're out filming or something, or when he's hanging out with Jay, we'll just sneak into Brian's car and just leave her on the seat.
Yep.
Just to mess with him a little bit.
As long as he doesn't break her, because
Oh, you don't have to worry. He's not going to get anywhere near the doll. You don't have to worry about that. As soon as he sees it, it'll make Dude Run look like he was going in slow motion.
Well, I do have to say, when I found out that the house I'm living in now, which was my husband's grandmother's house, she collected dolls, but she had already passed away before I even met my husband. And when I found out that this house used to be full of dolls, I turned to my husband and I said, if I find one freaking doll in this house, I am out. That's it. We're done.
Well, but is that something that is... let's just say that, you did receive another doll as a gift. Is it... Could there be a positive experience that changes your mind about a doll?
No.
Because
I've gotten dolls before as gifts. All through growing up, people were giving me dolls, and I can tell you every single doll I ever got was in the same box that Claire was in.
But where do you draw the line with that, though? Is a Cabbage Patch Kid a doll? What about a stuffed animal?
What about action figures?
Yeah, where do you feel comfortable? At what point do they stop creeping you out?
Just dolls in general. Okay, Barbie doll, not so much. Some of the really creepy looking
those
baby dolls
creep
they
me
have
out.
now.
They're not anatomically correct. That's so weird.
Well, I'm not either, so.
Well, sorry.
But no, stuff like that. Stuff that's more, I guess I'll say more modern looking dolls are okay. It's the old fashioned dolls. It's dolls like Claire or, Robert the doll, stuff that has, it almost has a personality to it, and you just don't see them come across that so much in the more modern dolls. But no, stuffed animals, I love stuffed animals. I still have every stuffed animal I own, and, it's action figures. I was playing with one of my friend's son's action figures just the other day. I don't care about that. It's just Claire. Claire is where I draw the line. Anything that looks kind of like her.
American dolls always kind of freaked me out a little bit, too. The American Girl dolls.
Yeah, I got one of those not too long after my experience with Claire, and she is in a box as well.
The all time classic creepy doll, though, the one that takes the cake, is My Buddy. Remember My Buddy?
Yes.
Fancy.
Oh my God, those things creep me out.
Yeah, well that's where Chucky came from, the good guys, from the Child's Play movies. But yeah, my brother got one of those My Buddy dolls when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, and let me tell you, I had no problem, Robbie and Poltergeist. I had no problem just throwing the blanket over it every night when it was time to go to bed.
I did the same thing with my Teddy Ruxpin.
Oh, and you know what? If you see Paranormal Activity 3, there's
I did.
Yeah,
I
the
saw
Teddy
that.
Ruxpin that's in that movie. That's going to add a whole new level of creepy to Teddy Ruxpin fans.
Which was funny because I came across the Teddy Ruxpin as I was looking for Claire, and I was like, okay. And then that same, a couple of days later, I saw Paranormal Activity 3, and I was like, oh, let's just, haunt me with Teddy Ruxpin now.
Well, and I have a family member who actually had a psychic connection made over a Teddy Ruxpin, so I was going to text her and warn her that when she sees Paranormal Activity 3 that it's in the movie, and I said, nah, I'll just wait. Find out what her reaction is. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Jill, and thank you for letting us, run tests on Claire. And like I said, we're going to be nice to her.
Okay.
We're probably going to take her out for a cheeseburger now after the show's over.
Just don't get any ketchup on her.
No. No. I mean, there's no promises about that. I mean, it all depends on what kind of a messy eater she is. But we'll do our best to clean her up afterwards.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
That is Jill. She is the owner of Claire the Haunted Doll, who you can see right on the cameras right now on Spooky TV. And if you're listening to this on podcast and you want to go back and check it out, you can just go into the archives on ustream.tv or on SpookySouthcoast.com/SpookyTV, and you can get the archives of this episode, and you can actually see what Claire looks like. I put a picture up on Facebook of me and Claire the doll, and the immediate reaction that I heard from everybody is the doll looks fine, but the face that I'm making in the picture is extremely disturbing.